right, let's do this thing. All right, you guys. I am going to share this screen because I find that I'm now reliant on this fucking PowerPoint here. Can everybody see this? All right, maybe just give me a thumbs up, maybe. Okay,
Got
sweet.
it.
Yeah, Bob, thanks, bud. All right, you guys. So we're gonna talk real quick about fat loss and muscle gain and what you really need to know. So the big things here that we're going to be hitting on today, I'm going to use a precision nutrition article and I'm going to send it out to everybody as well. That they kind of gave the meat and potatoes of this, and then I'm just going to kind of add our own spin onto it. So this is going to talk about, the cost of the goal that you want. It's going to talk about, do you want to lose a few pounds? Do you want to look fit in your clothes? Do you want to gain 15 pounds of muscle? Do you want to lose 40 pounds of, body fat, like kind of how that looks for each individual person. And then also the cost associated with that desired outcome as well. So we're going to kind of go through all the things. And then at the end, I'll see if you guys have any questions or anything like that. But real quick, I want everybody to kind of realize this, and I've seen it a little bit so far in the group, especially. The cost of the goal that you want is always going to be more and higher than what you think it actually will be. And by that, I mean, like, you're expecting in the 3 or 6 months or however long we're working together for that we're going to reach this goal at the end of the rainbow. And I'm finding that more and more we're starting to get delayed. They're going to run into life issues. You're going to run into, hey, I'm not motivated today. Hey, my main diesel engines are blown to shit and I don't know what's going on with work now. There are all these things that are going to happen in your life that are going to, start throwing you curveballs. And part of this program and part of health and wellness in general is learning how to roll with the punches and figure out how to still get the job done, even though you're getting thrown all these different curveballs. So I just want to reiterate that it's really important to understand that we're going to have this goal and we have this, time frame to do it. But realistically, this is a long game. This is a long game because at the end of the day, change takes time, and consistent change and safe change takes time. I don't want everybody to bite off on a fad diet, do it for 2 months, see crazy results, and then right after that be like, dude, I can't sustain this because I can't go out to eat with my wife and kids. So then they just go right back into your old habits, and it's not something you can keep doing for forever. The point of this is to have consistent and constant change so we can just continue to make progress over time. So what I want to talk about real fast next is going to be kind of transitional period. So this is a graphic pulled directly from the article. Essentially, this is like what a healthy person is going to do in an easy transition between life, or we'll call like body fat percentages, right? So, if you have a body fat percentage as a male of 13 to 15% or a female of 23 to 25%, these are just going to give you a couple big cues of things that you could do. So, for example, it would be an easy transition for you to do this. And I'll talk about a medium difficulty and more difficult at the end. But basically, here's how we would try and accomplish this goal. Hey, we're going to eat a little slower when we take our meals in for 75% of our meals. And what that means is like, you can go into a meal, you can take a couple bites, and then you can set like your stuff down and like have a discussion with somebody, or, eliminate a distraction or be more mindful when you're eating. And you'll find that you're satiated and you're not going to eat until you're over full at, 100% or 110% capacity and feel like shit. You'll be eating to like 80% or 90% capacity. And you can do that over time and start to see some results from just eating less volume over time. And then it's giving a couple like general guidelines for protein intake and as well as vegetable intake. So, 1 to 2 palm sizes of protein, dense foods, and 2 to 3 meals a day. And then 1 or 2 fist sizes of vegetables and 2 to 3 meals a day. So again, those are just giving vague, we'll call like metrics so that you know exactly what that could look like on a plate, and be super easy to attain. And then the other thing is exercising 30 to 45 minutes, 1 or 2 sessions, breaking a sweat. Thankfully for us, we're doing it in 3, 4, some of us 5 sessions a week, and then getting good sleep. So then we'll talk about doing less. So what do we need to do less of? Well, obviously we could always do less of eating processed foods. So doing less of it, meaning that we can do it 3 to 5 times a week, and then making sure that we're trying to drink fewer caloric heavy food or drinks, aka like beers or sodas, etc. So realize that this goal is going to have some benefits and some trade-offs. Benefits being it's pretty easy to maintain. We can keep our energy levels. We've got, the ability to reduce or eliminate a bunch of medications. So like this is like, hey, I take XYZ multivitamins or whatever. If you just get your nutrients, micronutrients and macronutrients from food, then you can start to eliminate and wean yourself off of some of those pills that you're taking to fill the gaps. But there are some trade-offs, right? So at the end of the day, you may have to do some social planning. You may have to be like, hey, I'm going to go out to the bar and instead of having 20 beers tonight, I'm going to have 2 and I'm going to set myself a hard stop. Or, hey, I may need to go to a restaurant and then be like, hey, instead of me just waiting until I get there and being like, I'm going to get the burger and fries, I'm going to look up, hey, do they have a salmon or a steak and potatoes that I could get instead? So it's just making small little kind of mindful shifts in your day-to-day life to figure out how this kind of fits in to the program. Obviously, the 7 hours of sleep is a lot. So it's something to kind of be mindful of as well. And then making sure that you're prepping food. Like I find, especially for people that are on the go a lot, if you have a little bit of food prep that you can do beforehand, before you get out the door, it makes it really helpful. So what my wife and I typically do is we'll cook dinner and we'll make excess on purpose. And then that's my lunch for the next day and her lunch for the next day. And then we'll just rip that with us. That works for us. And I can talk to everybody about their individual kind of situation and we can figure out what works for them. But that's kind of what we do so that we're knowing exactly what we're going to have for at least, lunch the next day. And then we can figure out how to make the healthy and or not healthy choice. If I want to have a donut in the morning, it's okay if I'm having a grilled chicken salad for lunch, if that makes sense. So here's a medium transition. This is somebody that's trying to go to like 10 to 12% body fat as a male or 20 to 22 as a female. So you can tell the graphics, and I guess I could go back maybe. Maybe I can't. Oh yeah, here's the easy, here's the medium. Notice how the 2 people are getting a little more cut up. Precision Nutrition did a good job at giving them their kudos for their hard work. But again, they're just basically now starting to add in more of the things that you need to do. Hey, look, if you're going to do this transition to be down to 10 to 12% body fat, it looks like you need more sleep. It looks like you need to work out more. It looks like you need to eat more consistently the same amount of things that we just talked about. Drink less. So now instead of, 3 to 5 times a week, it's 1 to 2 per week. And then this is also prioritizing sleep. You're going to be, trying to make sure that you're having the balanced diet. It's pretty tough, or it's going to become tougher to maintain when you have all these other environmental factors start to come in. So this is where people have to start setting a little harder boundaries. You could be in this position if you're, I don't know, training for some sort of event, something like that. It can be super tough though to stay in this, 10 to 12% body fat regime or 20 to 22 as a female. And then lastly, the hard transition is going to be somebody who's like hella cut up. This is like elite athlete that's going to a bodybuilding show. But again, you can see that the general consensus and general consistency from the easy, medium, and difficult transition to make is doing more things consistently throughout. So now 95% of our meals, we're eating slowly. We're doing, 1 to 2 pounds of protein in each meal every single day. We're exercising now for longer. We're doing it more frequently. We're sleeping more. We're limiting carbs to post-workout. We're eating desserts only once every 1 to 2 weeks, which is, again, that's a lot more than most people. 1 to 2 weeks per time that you have like a beer or something like that, or a few. And realize that this is like really, really high level athletes, Olympic athletes, whatever that is, people on a bodybuilding show. But again, like that's just to show you the gradual change of consistency of how it goes from when you're trying to do this transition in an easy way, more difficult, and then most difficult, and kind of what it takes and the trade-offs that kind of you have to make and at least acknowledge when you're trying to, achieve the body that you're looking to get. So real quick, I want to talk about kind of these three big questions. So when you start any sort of journey like this for change, you need to look at like three big questions. And it's, what are you wanting to change? So is this your body type? Is this your confidence? Is this your, how your clothes fit? Is this being more athletic for a rugby contest? Like whatever your goal is, you need to identify what that is. The second thing you need to do is, what are you willing to do for that goal right now? So what are you willing to change? What are you willing to accept? Are you willing to go out to eat one time fewer per week? Are you willing to cook at night and meal prep for the next day? Whatever your kind of list is. And then the last one, and I think the most important one, is what are you not going to do in any way to change? What is the one thing that you won't do for the goal right now? And, there's some people that this is going to be where the hinge point is. So like for me personally, like I'm not going to give up having chocolate covered fruit in the form of true fruit or like eating a donut when I want. And sorry, like for me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I don't want to be on stage doing bodybuilding contests. And that's just the way that I decided that I don't want to live my life like that. Right. So I've said like, I don't want to be in a position where I can't say no to having an apple or eating a donut or whatever. And I want to be able to go out to dinner and not be tripping if, I order a burger, and like, I'm okay with that because I eat better, than that 80% of the time or whatever my kind of standard metric is. So I can't answer these questions for you. These are ones that you kind of need to ask yourself. And then I would love if all of you guys that end up watching this, you get back to me on what these are. What do you want to change? What are you willing to change? And then what won't you change kind of moving forward? Super important for us to all be on the same page so that we can custom cater your nutrition and health and wellness plan to these three questions. So the next thing I want to talk about is a realistic weight loss. So this is, I would even argue, pretty aggressive. So you can see that we're kind of getting into like, hey, what's progress here? Are we making extreme progress, reasonable or comfortable progress? The percentage of body weight. So this is obviously, based on how much you weigh currently. And then they kind of average that out into a male and female category. So for us, we'll say that we're in a comfortable or reasonable range between 1 to 2 pounds. And this is per week. But remember, like this is when we're doing all these things with some sort of consistency. So for us, we talked about those three transition levels, the easy, medium, and hard transition level. Those would kind of map to these three as well. Easy being you're doing the right thing about 50 to 65%, medium 70 to 85, and hard 90 to 100. So realizing that that's kind of how you map into this, what your fat loss per week is. Now, notice this doesn't say weight change per week, right? This is just fat loss per week. I want to make sure that that's super evident. Like you may end up not changing your weight at all on the scale. And that may be because you didn't poop or you ate or you drank or whatever happened. But you are still burning fat and changing your body in the mirror, changing how clothes will fit and starting to make drastic change. So realize that this is fat loss per week. And it's not based on total body mass that you see on the scale, which I find a lot of us are kind of getting wrapped around the axle on. So the couple of questions that I'd want to ask you when we're looking at this is like, how consistent are you being? Are you logging your food? Are you snacking? Are you truly dedicating yourself to the process of working hard, optimizing your workouts? When I set a timer for 45 seconds on and 15 seconds off in the app, are you working for the full 45 seconds or are we kind of punting the last 10? Like, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself to being like, hey, are we doing it 50% of the time or 100% of the time? And this is how you start to see the results kind of stack up. And again, another kind of chart here that I think is super telling, losing weight is kind of like the stock market, right? At the end of the day, the stock market's going to either go up or down, but it's typically in one of these kind of, we'll call sinusoidal, oh, can't even talk, type of curves, right? So we're gradually changing, but you can see that obviously maybe this dude had a ton of beer on this day or, drank water and hopped on a scale after a bender in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. I don't know. It's July. Let's say 4th of July fireworks, right? And he's just going hard, nomming hot dogs and fucking burgers until the cows come home. And look, if he looks at this number here and this number here, he's going to be like, damn, I didn't change at all between April and July, but really his weight is going down as a gradual trend over time. So realize that this is a graph of somebody's realistic weight loss over a 9-month window. And that change is like, average. I guess that's coming in at what, like 147 and starting at like 162. So that's super good and healthy as well. So a lot of this is going to come from like realizing it's a long game, and real results are coming from that consistency over time and not getting wrapped around the axle of these little fluctuations throughout the the journey. So the other end of the coin, right? Well, I guess most people end up doing both at the same time, but realistic muscle gain is another component that's really important. So this is going to be determined by a couple different factors, and it's slightly different than the fat loss train, because this one really depends on your fitness level, kind of where you're starting. Obviously, it's going to depend on your gender as well. So let's say that you are a brand new person to working out, right? You be put in the beginner category. Those beginner gains are crazy, dude. Like the people that can hop in a gym for the first time ever and they're like, holy shit, like here's a weight. They're going to see themselves pound on some muscle with some good consistency, like 1.5 to 2.5 pounds per month, right? Like those guys are going to be able to really, really put it on. But somebody who's been in the gym for forever, like somebody who's been grinding and since they were, 15 and now they're 35, they're going to struggle to put on mass. And this is when they're pushing themselves super hard and they have a program figured out. So realize that the timing in this and how much experience you have in the gym as well as working out is going to affect how much muscle you're going to gain over time. And it's something to consider. Now, Precision Nutrition also said that over the course of a lifting career, so the full time, and for me, I started, I think, when I was like 14 picking up weights, men have the potential to gain about 40 to 50 pounds of muscle over the course of their lifting career. So let's say my lifting career ends tomorrow. I've hit my quota for sure since the day I started, and I'm basically capped out. And that's because of my height, my bone structure, my genetics, all these things that kind of factor into this equation. For women, it's typically 20 to 25. So unless you're taking steroids, which most of us don't really have a desire to do that and kill our internal organs, you're going to pretty much be limited by those few things and the time windows, or experience windows that you have when you're starting your kind of, we'll call muscle gain journey. So I just want to talk through a couple big takeaways from that. Biggest thing being that fat loss and muscle gain curves aren't linear. So both of them aren't. I could have given you the same type of chart that shows the muscle gain, and it would be the same thing. It would be that same type of, squiggly heartbeat style of line that's going up and away, and eventually capping out because of your genetic makeup not allowing you to get any bigger. So I want you all to think about your fat loss and muscle gain journey as like a road trip, So you hop in the car and you're going cross country. You can't jam there all at once. You're not fucking going bottle like straight through from California to Key West in a day. Like you can't do it. So you need to make sure you're taking bathroom breaks. You're going to hit road construction. You're going to get a slow down. You're going to have to walk the dog out there. You got to figure out ways that you get veered off the path, but then you come back to your end goal and then stay consistent with the goal that you have. The other takeaway I want to make sure I highlight is that the more you lean out, the slower your rate of fat loss and the harder it is to continue to lose weight. So if you're 300 pounds, your weight is going to come off super, super quick, right? But if you're 135 pounds, it's really, really tough to get that 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pounds out when you don't have a lot to lose. So realize that starts to get even tougher. It means that you need to ramp up either your work in the gym or in the kitchen so that you're able to reach that goal. The last one's going to be over the course of a lifting career, like I said before, is going to be 20 to 25 pounds of muscle for women and 40 to 45 for men. So knowing that you're genetically limited at a certain point in your journey is going to be essentially super crucial to understand. So I'm just going to go through real quick these little fat loss charts. I thought these were super sweet that Precision Nutrition put out in the article as well. So these basically highlight like what makes losing fat easier and harder. So the right side is easier, the left side is harder. So obviously, if you're older, it's tougher to lose fat. Your metabolism starts to slow down. Being female, sorry, ladies, but there's no men in here. So hoorah for us right now. For those in the chat live, sorry to the ladies that are working with me. You have an uphill battle already. Your current body size. So if you're smaller versus being heavier, obviously, like I said, the 300-pound guy is going to have an easier time. If you're already relatively lean or more body fat, I've talked about this before, but this is kind of knowing your body style. So, endomorph is we'll call it hot topic word that comes out. And endomorph is someone who retains kind of body fat more, and an ectomorph is someone who doesn't. So on the broad spectrum, you could say like, hey, a sumo wrestler is the epitome of an endomorph. And then a basketball player who's 6'7" and 120 pounds is an ectomorph. Like they can't put on weight. The other guy can't lose weight. That's kind of like the way that shakes out. Your current activity level. So whether you do high or low levels of activity are obviously going to be super, super important to understand in your fat loss journey. The type of activity is really important too. So whether you do excessive cardio makes it really tough, but a well-rounded exercise regimen makes it easier for you to lose weight. Being consistent versus inconsistency. I know I've hit on that a bunch of times. I don't think I need to do that anymore. Sleep is key, stress levels, hormones, medications, and then just general health status is going to be another type of issue that, could come up that makes it really hard for you to lose fat. All right. So same thing for muscle gain. Again, you'll see a lot of parallels between the fat loss one, but basically we're going through like being older is tougher. Being female is tougher. Having a small frame and bone structure is tougher. If you have more body fat, it's tougher. Little no activity, obviously. You don't do resistance training. You're inconsistent. You don't sleep. Excessive stress, high cortisol, which is huge stress hormone issues that you could hit, and then other types of drugs and bills of health, things that can make it tougher. Again, these are just ways that you can try and we'll call accelerate your muscle gain journey if you're on the right side of this chart here. So I don't want anybody to get discouraged on kind of reaching goals. What I do want to do though is I want to start to kind of break down what this looks like on a day-to-day. So let's say your goal is to lose 20 pounds of body fat, right? So you need to break down what's that skill? Well, the skill is being consistent in the gym, or, fill in X, Y, or Z, eating well, training well, having a holistic, health goal, whatever that looks like, right? The practice is something you need to do to build the skill. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to communicate with me so that we can build a good program for you that suits your lifestyle day to day. And that daily action, maybe that daily action is just like, hey, you take 5 minutes to plan out what you're going to eat in MyFitnessPal. Boom. Then, in the morning, you're going to have this, in the afternoon, you're going to have this, and then at night, you're going to have this. And then you're able to kind of really take that into a bite-sized piece. So the daily action eventually becomes the goal if you just kind of stick to it. And it's super, super easy to break down that day and it looks less daunting, right? It's a 5-minute exercise versus a, X amount of miles away goal that you're kind of trying to hit. So one last note that I kind of want to hit on too. I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but weight loss and fat loss are definitely different. You can weigh 170 pounds, feel like shit, or you can weigh 170 pounds and be shredded, and be the same exact person in both cases, right? The difference is you put on muscle, you've decreased the amount of body fat that you have, but the weight and the scale hasn't moved. So what I want you to do is realize that the number on the scale isn't something to get wrapped around the axle on. What you should get wrapped around the axle on is how confident you are, the way your clothes are fitting, the way you look in the mirror, the way that you feel. Are you getting better sleep? Are you well rested? Are you less stressed? Those types of things start to really compound over time and you start to get better. And I'll give you a little thing. This is me, Exhibit A. I weigh the same in both of these photos. One of them was taken January of 2022, and this one was taken a couple months ago at a wedding that I was at in 2023. So they're over a year apart difference. making just constant, consistent change. And again, I'll be the first to admit it's taken me a really, really long time to figure out what works for me. And I'm hoping to help kind of minimize the timeline for you guys. Does anybody have any questions that's in here right now that I can kind of address or defer? Bueller?
How do you do anything to test your body fat or like keep track of that?
Yeah, so I actually bought a body composition scale. I don't know how accurate they are. Typically, I think they're not as accurate as like I want to say there's like a method, and don't quote me on this, and internet, don't berate me if I'm incorrect, but I'm pretty sure there's a way that you can go to this like super high tech pool and they'll basically dunk you in there and measure like your body fat percentage like that. I didn't decided that I didn't care that much. So what I did is I bought, I want to say my scale was like $100. And you step on it and there's like two little electrodes on the pads, and essentially they'll shoot up through your body and then measure like those things for you. And I can send you a link for that too, Bobby, the one that I have. But I've found that it's pretty accurate. I don't know how accurate really. It's probably like a couple, percentage of error is associated with it. And you obviously get what you pay for. But I'm not somebody that's ever done like calipers or anything like that. I've kind of just taken like, hey, this is what somebody looks like when they're at 15 or 10%, and here's kind of where I fall into that equation. And again, I'm not measuring progress that way. I'm kind of measuring progress more of like, hey, how do I feel today? How are my energy levels? Am I confident? Am I not? What are those kind of looking like more so than what the body fat percentage is? Because that's great. Say you have the goal of being 8% body fat. Well, what happens when you make it, right? Are you just going to revert back, or are you going to start to accept this new norm of like, hey, it took me this much work to get here. This has a cost. And for me to stay here, I have to continue to do this. And is this something that I really want to do? That's kind of a question that you have to ask yourself and weigh on your own.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? No. Cool. Cool. Well, that's all I have for you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed that, and maybe it gave you a little kick in the ass moving forward. If you guys do have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna attach the Precision Nutrition link to the video or in the comments of the video. So if you want to read the article yourself, you can. But I kind of summarized the main points in here. So until next time, you guys. See you later.
Sweet. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.
See ya.